quote-unquote people who are not necessarily here, but they have come and they're now part and parcel of Kisumu and they're Kenyans now. When you look at that kind of trajectory and growth, they have assimilated themselves. They are now Kisumu residents, basically. How are they tapping the business from the foreign nations to Kisumu?
Like I would say, for Indians, business is in the blood.
Yes.
I remember even when I was as young as 6, 7, 8 years old, I used to go to the shop at Western Emporium during Saturdays, during holidays, and about the international business. So a lot of the business community have friends, have accessibility in the international market. So they do projects in joint venture, and that has really supported people locally. Yes.
What is the future like for Kisumu when you see it as a commerce, as an organization? What is the future of Nyanza in general looking like?
We are encouraging the current investors to widen, because like United Millers you're talking about.
Yes.
They are, of course, their base is Kisumu. They have opened another base in Narok because that is near the wheat basket, and they need to do the flour mill, the wheat flour mill from there. And they are also investing in other areas. They are like going into fish fingerling production and so on to support the industry on animal feeds and so on. We have Mombasa millers. We have people who have started new business on bread, like Kisumu Concrete. And we have Skylark, who have also widened. They are doing their furniture here. And we are saying let us import less and produce more locally.
Exactly, locally.
Yes.
What is the government's contribution to the chamber?
The national government's role is to make sure that the business environment is conducive. Yes.
All right. And you agree with that? Because they talk about the Italian Chamber of Commerce, and now here, how is it contributing to the economy of Kisumu?
So I would like to talk about the different government bodies, compared to before. So currently they are more friendly, like in the past, people had to really facilitate a lot, which is very little now. And the processes in the government bodies are more simpler and more better.
Yeah.
Yes.
The same question, Mr. Gina. When to anybody who's never been to Kisumu, for us we've been privileged enough that some of us have been here a couple of times. How would someone who is not yet to Kisumu what would you tell them? What Kisumu is all about? Nyanza or county in general? You wake up here, you do your business here. The kind of perception you have about Kisumu County.
We know what has happened or was happening in Mombasa.
Yes.
If you are at the airport to reach town, it used to take an hour. Kisumu is not more than 10 minutes or 15 minutes from any angle. So we don't have a traffic gridlock like those people. But coming back to the business environment, we as Chamber, we are appealing to the national government and to county governments to go back to single business permits, because they have so many licenses. When we went into single business permit, they were all coalesced and put together. Now they have mushroomed, and there are about 20-25 more licenses that you have to go for. Then we have trans-county licenses, and we have also sub-county licenses. For example, you find that if you are taking goods to Ahero, the sub-county administration there would like to collect certain fees. And when you are going to Homa Bay, they would like to do that. So we are saying these are things that need to be streamlined so that we go back to a single business permit and make it much easier for people.
All right. Yeah. As we come to a close, I want you to give a word of minute to give your closing remarks, because at the end of the day we are also expecting Governor to be here anytime from now. If you had a moment with the Governor, what question would you ask the Governor as your closing remarks?
Well, I would encourage the Governor to continue working in his spirit, and of course to use his international network and bring in more investors in Kisumu and tap into the lake. I think in a few years we should see at least 1 or 2 cruise liners, and yep.
Yeah, a few cruise liners for the county of Kisumu. Chairman, your final remarks.
My final remark is to thank the county government and the national government for what they have done so far, but there's much more to be done. And to my friend Professor Nyong'o, your daughter is at Hollywood. Do something about Kisumu. Let us be the leaders in film industry in this country.
All right. And Governor will be here to answer that question as well. You've just preempted part of my question that I wanted to ask the Governor. I don't know who gave you that leakage. I have no idea who gave you that leakage. But nonetheless, thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. We've been speaking to Hiran Mehta, who is a businessman, also a member of the Italian Chamber of Commerce, but here based in Kisumu, as well as Israel Agina, who is the chairman of the National Chamber of Commerce, Kisumu Nyanza chapter, if I got it right. Yes, all right. Thank you so much for coming. We are taking a break, but we come back. We're expecting the Governor of Kisumu, that is Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o, to give us sharp focus on what we should be expecting in his manifesto that he promised the residents of Kisumu during the last general election campaigns, as well as what the people of Kisumu should expect of him in matters development. Let's take a break, and we come back. We'll be having that discussion briefly. Meanwhile, let's also enjoy that view of the lake as we take a break. We'll be right back. Those are the hippos enjoying their time. Let's also have some fun. We'll be right back after this break. Good morning.
It's the third round of the DFB Pokal, a mini Revere derby in the DFB Cup.
Ici for Mukoko! Lozier's in there and scores!
This is an old-school raw pot battle. 5-time winners against 2-time finalists.
Fantastic save from Gregor Kobel.
The raw pot battle, only one can go through.
How come it's so sour?
It's sour? Weird. Mine was sour this morning too. I still don't know what it means.
He's such a weirdo. Am I his guinea pig? Oh no.
The day when you broke the glass.
Broke what glass?
Nothing. Forget it.
Mr. Bai, I changed all of this.
What do you want? I really need to speak with you. I have a question for you.
Alifanya?
Amearestiwa. Mel, umesikia vile nimekwambia?
She bought the idea.
That is what I want to hear.
Come and clean up your mess!
Babe,
Don't touch me!
Why did you let him stay the night in jail?
I asked a question.
Mom, umekuja tu saa hii.
See, obviously, hanitaki yako.
Nini ngumu ya kufanya kenye dada amesema?
Yeye unataka nirudi?
Wewe fanya kenye umeambiwa.
How could you?
How could I what?
Welcome back on board. You're still on Good Morning Kenya, and I can tell you for sure that we are also just waiting up on the governor there of Kisumu County. At the moment he gets there, we shall definitely also be heading back there to Kisumu County with our very own Victor Olon to give you 360 of what is happening in that specific county. Matters development, politics also taking center stage in that area. But back in studio, just a quick look of how the dailies are looking like, just unpacking for you what has captured center stage on our dailies. A statue of very quickly with a copy of the Daily Nation on the front page. The flag there is the rogue judge. This is in regards to that verdict that was given there, and we also await to see the step that the president will take on this particular issue. That is Judge Chitembwe. Just going by what the Daily Nation has covered here, is even for a judge who shot to global infamy in 2017 when he was awarded the Golden Bludgeon for the worst judgment in the world, Justice said Juma Chitembwe still had everything going for him until that verdict by the tribunal there that was set to look into his matter. Away from that, cracks widen in Azimio after Ruto State House meeting with Raila MPs. These are the 9 members of parliament who met President Dr. William Ruto in State House. This story has been tucked away from page 4 through 6 of the Daily Nation. And even as we speak, the Azimia is mulling over having a parliamentary group meeting, actually beginning tomorrow, that's Thursday, all the way through Friday. So we wait to see if this will feature in, because then there was that particular memo that came in just showing disregard with respect to, you know, these members of parliament meeting the president. But also what has come to the fore is that we have seen these leaders nonetheless meeting the president when he was in Nyanza region with the governors of Kisumu, Siaya, as well as Homa Bay. And this, they say, is just in a bid of them trying to streamline the different development projects that these leaders represent. So we'll also wait to see how all this will pan out at the end of the day. On the sidebar of the Daily Nation, state out to privatize education. Teachers now, teachers union won on this. You remember the state had talked about schools not to be selling uniforms. There was that. There was the issue of also payment of fees. But just it turns out that some schools are still continuing with this practice, much as the state had warned on this. And also this, they say, with the capitation that the ministry has given to school, they still do not understand why some children are still at home because of fees. They also don't understand why the issue of uniforms is coming to the fore, much as the ministry had given a directive on this. And this is why they are actually warning on some of these schools that are still continuing with this practice. Just before I toss it over to Ram, a quick look on what the back page is holding for you. Still of the Daily Nation, repair of Mombasa Road to start in 8 weeks. This is what Kenha is saying, and this is in regards to that construction of the expressway. You remember that there was a bit of deconstruction on the lower road there, and so this is what is set to begin in just about 8 weeks. There had been a bit of push and pull in regards to financing that, but at least looks like a reprieve, particularly for those Kenyans that use this particular route and also those coming from the outskirts of Nairobi, as we await to see how this construction process will begin. Ram.
And of course, even as before we proceed with these highlights of what is in our dailies, I am aware that our very own Victor Olo is already on standby with his interview live from Kisumu County with Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. Let's head over to Kisumu County and get that particular discussion. Do we have Victor? Is he ready? Martin?
All right, and welcome back. The governor of Kisumu, our host governor, is already here in studio. And you have it. When we started before, the governor was also wondering the kind of scenery we have, with the hippos just behind us here. They're basking in the sun. But the question is, they are in water, but they're basking in the sun. Science. We'll answer that question later on. Okay. But before then, Governor, allow me to take you very quickly through the front pages of our local dailies. As usually, as we always do it, let me start with a copy of the Star newspaper. What do we have on the front page of the Star? Ruto raids ODM as Raila plots fight back. Ruto raids ODM as Raila plots fight back. There is that issue of disloyalty is part of the agenda at retreat to be held in Machakos from Thursday. That is there on the front page. You also have members of ODM who met President William Ruto yesterday in State House. A number of them, including CS Owalo. We have got Felix Oduor, Mark Nyamita, etc., etc. What is cooking? That is also on the front page of the Star newspaper. And on the front page of the Daily Nation, quite different. The rogue judge, that is also on the front page. The rogue judge, he wanted his stake in land deal paid in dollars or dirhams. Who are we talking about? Justice Chitembwe, who now the president has got 10 days to make that determination whether he'll be kicked out of the judiciary as was proposed by the JSC report. He's been facing issues over and over again, even for a judge who shot the global infamy in 2017 when he was awarded the Golden Bludgeon from the World Judgment in the World Justice side. Chituma Chitembwe still had everything going on for him, but right now the president has only 10 days to decide his fate matters career. All right, and finally, what do we have on the front page of the Standard? Radical proposals to jolt education sector. Radical proposals to jolt education sector. Among proposals the Presidential Working Party on Education reforms want is to stream the powers of TSC. The team is also suggesting mergers of universities as well as review of integrate to teaching colleges. That is also the front page of the Standard, but good to mention that we also have that bit of Justice Chitembwe, how Justice Chitembwe dug pit that buried plum career. You can take a look at your local daily for more and that. That is what you have on the front page of our local dailies. And now we have got our host governor, Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o, in studio. Governor, welcome to our set.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Morning. Welcome to Kisumu.
Thank you so much. Before we started the show, you also marveled at the sight that we've also been marveling throughout the morning since around 6 in the morning. The hippos basking in the sun.
And they look like stones. And they look like stones.
Actually, even our cameraman was wondering, is that a bit of stone or hyacinth or something? But the hippos.
Well, you know, from here you can't understand why they are there. But if you are there, you would understand because the sun is hitting the water.
Yes.
And you know they have been under the water all this while, down there, which is very cool. When they come to the top and the sun is hitting the water, it's very warm. So they will not move so long as the warmth that they're receiving is there.
Yes.
You see, they are very economical with their time. you know. They come out, the spot where the sun is hitting the water, and they stay there.
They disappear.
They disappear. They just sink down when they have had enough.
Governor, this only gives that a different picture of Kisumu, that a picture that people do not understand about Kisumu as a county. You are the host governor. You are the governor of this particular county. What are some of these things that people do not understand about Kisumu? But you said that, I wish someone from somewhere would have known about Kisumu County.
I mean, one of the things people don't know about Kisumu, but some do, of course, is the calmness of the place. The manner in which you can come here and just rest and chill and take it easy. Because for example, look at the yacht club. How many such clubs do you know?
Exactly.
Around here.
Yeah.
If you go to Mombasa, you'll find some things like this on the ocean, but you have to go to Mombasa. And therefore, there are only two places in Kenya where you can find this kind of atmosphere. That is Kisumu and Mombasa. I'm quite sure that maybe around Mount Kenya, yes, but not with as much expanse of water as at the coast and the lake shore.
Yes.
So I think this is an aspect of Kisumu that is going to grow as we open up the lakefront through the Lakefront Development Corporation work that is going on. And if the World Bank project that was building a ring road around the Lake Victoria is done, that will even provide much more opportunities for facilities to come around the lake which offer atmospheres like this. So I do believe that we are on the right course, and I do believe that within the next 5 years we're going to see more of this.
But overdue.
Well, it is long overdue, but that's why we're embarking on it. Actually, if you go to the west where we are, along that shore of the lake, you'll find that quite a number of resorts are coming up, which I've already stayed in one of them, Villa del Sol. You better go there. Villa del Sol is a very beautiful place.
Yes.
And after you pass Villa del Sol, there are many others going towards Kaloka Beach. Yeah.
Okay. Come back to your development agenda, because now it's almost 150 days into office, or the second term. You went to the residents of Kisumu, to the electorate, and they voted you back to serve your second term, which you are privileged enough to take that. What have you so far achieved within 150 or so days since you embarked on your second term in office?
Well, we have done a lot within the 150 days. Most of them are in agriculture, actually. Apart from having this fantastic relations with United Green, which is a British company coming to invest about 31 billion shillings here. That is going to be a huge injection in the agricultural sector. But apart from that, we have started the operation of the tomato plant at Kochieng in Kano. And the animal reproduction center in Chemelil is going on very well. And we have a lot of irrigation projects in the Nyakach Kano area to continue reviving production of rice and other crops.
Yes.
But much more important is that we've managed finally to bring in a 30 million rice milling plant at the Hero irrigation scheme, where the National Irrigation Board has its facilities. That rice mill is going to make a lot of difference to rice in terms of value addition. So far, Ugandan traders have been coming to the rice belt and buying rice without any value addition. So it's they who are enjoying the value addition and not us. So now we are going to mill our own rice here with a very big rice mill that we have bought by the county. And once it starts operations, it's a game changer.
Yeah. And Governor, that's about the project nobody would easily understand or know unless they're highlighted. When you talk about Uganda getting into the business aspect with Kisumu County, how much is going to be the turnover ultimately, giving a projection of 5 years?
I think it's big. I think it's really big, because if you consider that there are only two places producing rice in large quantities in Kenya, that is Mwea and Ahero. And Ahero rice is really preferred because of its taste. We have a huge market. And as other rice come from Uganda, Tanzania, and of course some people import rice from Pakistan, as far as Pakistan. But once we increase production 10 times, we are going to have a lot of import substitution in Kenya with rice from Ahero. But another thing we've done, which is very innovative, is to establish the Zipline drone company. Now, people don't understand Zipline. Zipline is a company that we negotiated with when we went to Uganda, along with the governors from the Lake Region Economic Bloc, to help transport veterinary products and agricultural products to users.
Yes.
For example, we have this animal reproduction center in Chemeli where people are expected to take their cows to be artificially inseminated, to have higher breeds, so that from your ordinary zebu cows, you then have the cows are then artificially inseminated by bulls of higher grade and value, and then you improve the value of your herd.
Yes.
Now, rather than transporting your cattle there, Zipline will be able to drop the semen in your farm and the artificial insemination done on spot, that you don't waste your time going there, which is quite a problem. But also another thing is, which is going on at the moment too, is that sometimes we need to drop medical products to dispensaries, health centers and so on away from Kisumu, rather than put them in a truck or a van or whatever, or a motorbike to take them, which takes time. You use zipline drones to drop the product.
And this is a new innovation.
Very new. I mean, there are only three such other drone facilities in Africa, in Rwanda, in Ghana, and Nigeria. So we are the fourth.
Okay, let's talk about health. It's quite close to the heart of people as well. The government, through the national government, health is part of the devolved functions, and you are doing a lot in terms of devolving and taking to the sub-counties. What is the progress so far?
The progress is good. It's good, but I think we are determined to do more. As you know, health delivery systems is a function of county governments. The national government also makes policies and training and all that. But when it comes to where the rubber touches the ground, particularly primary and primary family and public health care, that is the work of the counties. Okay. So it means that we have to develop tremendous capacity at the village level to ensure that the health of our people is improved. And part of the health, quite a good part of the health, is nutrition and environment. If people don't have good nutrition, of course, they're going to jeopardize their health.
Yeah.
If they don't live in a clean environment, there's another problem. So we are tackling the health issue in a three. Sorry.
Taking a break. We are still having this discussion with Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, the governor of county. As we do this, we are also marveling at the view of Lake Victoria. Someone who's now been here for quite a long time would easily tell that Kisumu is not beautiful. Kisumu is beautiful. We are just a few meters, from the water. So we are lucky enough. All right, Governor, talking about matters health and how close it is, because the primary health is where a majority of Kenyans depend on first.
Yeah. When first is to develop level 1 and level 2 hospitals or facilities, dispensaries and health centers. Some health centers are level 3. At that point in time, we really rely on community health workers.
Yes.
These are civilians, mainly women, but sometimes men, who are trained in basic health care, particularly family health. Family health means that a community health worker must have a record of families in this family, in their area of jurisdiction. It is a long-term process, because it is not something you force on people. It's something you persuade people to join, so that the public health system can help them prevent some diseases through vaccination. Now, you know that we usually think of vaccination only in terms of pandemics. No. Vaccination should be something that is undertaken in terms of prevention of possible diseases. I'll give you an example. Young girls entering puberty.
Yes.
And not yet experiencing sexual contact with boys or men. Now, they must be taught how to take care of themselves, particularly when they begin having their menstrual monthly periods. Okay. There is something called human papilloma virus, which girls and women get. That human papilloma virus, it can be vaccinated against, because it is a precursor to possible cervical cancer. Now, this is something that only community health workers, who are women, can do in educating families about vaccinating young girls against human papilloma virus. Now, at the moment, it's a very serious matter because teenage pregnancy is becoming very prevalent in Kenya and interferes with girls' education. Recently, when we were giving scholarships in Tom Mboya Labour College, bursaries and scholarship Kenya Commercial Bank, I was shocked to find a girl who was getting a scholarship to go to high school, who was 11 years old and had already had a child. You understand this is a very serious matter. So we as county governments have an enormous responsibility to deal with this kind of thing, let alone dealing with things like HIV, AIDS and so on, and non-communicable diseases, cancers and so on. There are some basic public health and family health issues that we must confront.
Absolutely.
You see. And that is why when we in the county government said that we should get enough money that we need from the revenue bill, the CRA. I mean, it is not because we want to misuse that money, it's because that money is needed for very basic healthcare provision in our societies, so that we live in a healthy, strong, and productive nation. That's one. Secondly, in terms of health again, if you don't have access roads in the rural areas, and somebody accidentally falls sick, and even a motorbike cannot reach that home, you realize you're not doing a very good thing to your people.
Absolutely.
Because people don't build their own roads. Roads are communal things. Access roads are communal things. Therefore, when we establish village administrations, village councils and so on, we give them 5 fundamental responsibilities. One over access roads, the other one over environment, the other one over provision water, the 4th one is health, and the 5th one is agriculture. Because in the old days, for example, each family had a little garden behind the kitchen, producing basic commodities like vegetables, tubers, and whatnot. And then you have 1 or 2 dairy cows where you got milk. That was tradition. When I grew up, that was a typical feature of every Luo home. Now we understand that in those days, without very extensive healthcare, bad health was a very rare thing. I remember growing up, it was a very rare thing, except for malaria, a few other things. But because population has increased, because pollution has entered even rural areas, you find diseases that never existed before, terrorizing communities in rural areas. Now we must work very hard to roll the ball back and make sure that we approximate as much as possible that very what I call fresh kind of communities that we had in those old days. I'm not saying that we travel backwards, but we use modernity to create a healthy environment, healthy systems for people to live in.
And Governor, still on the matter, belongs to the Lake Region Economic Bloc. And I believe that as a county you had your mandate, because each and every county had their mandate on whatever they were supposed to do to contribute to the LREP. But then, one thing that is quite important matters health. We don't have a big referral hospital. A majority of patients still tend to go to Eldoret.
That is not true. That is not true, by the way. That's a fallacy. We have a big referral hospital. Yes, Jaramogi. And you only need to go there and find that we receive patients from all over in Jaramogi, even from Uganda and Sudan.
What is the current uptake?
I don't know exact figures, but it's pretty big. I mean, you go to Jaramogi, find it full all the time. If anything, we are expanding it. We are expanding. If you go there, you find that we are building a big comprehensive cancer care center. We are expanding the surgical wards. We are expanding the ward to do with neurological problems. We have even, unfortunately for me, but it is necessary, we have built a new resting home, for the dead, you see what I mean? Because along with treating people, there is also the tragedy of losing people. And since we have a big clientele from around the region, we have to expand facilities. And sometimes, of course, there are certain services that are available only in Moi Teaching and Referral Hospitals. Like Moi Teaching and Referral Hospitals so far has been leading in cancer treatment. It was the regional port of call for cancer. But that is why we are expanding our comprehensive cancer care center, because of the demand for prevention of cancer and for treatment of cancer. The other thing that...
Do we have an oncology center at the referral hospital?
Cancer means partly oncology. You see what I mean?
Exactly.
You see, the point is that it is not just the physical facility you need. You need the human resources. In order to have a comprehensive cancer center, you need oncologists of various kinds, by the way, because there are those people who are specialized in prostate cancer, some specialized in breast cancer, and so on. So when you are training oncologists, you must also be ready to know that you are going to be trained specialization within oncology. Then you have to have medical physicists who are very necessary in oncology. Those people who plan how you, for example, you're going to have radiation. Then you have cancer nurses. So there's a whole lot of specialties in the cancer space in terms of human resources that you need to have a proper comprehensive cancer care center. Unfortunately, we have never invested enough in cancer treatment. I remember when I was Minister of Medical Services, this is one of the things that I observed and started fighting very hard for the expansion of experts in cancer. And that is what led partly that quest. We worked very closely with Olive Mugenda for the established comprehensive cancer care center.
And Governor, still on health
Kenyatta University.
The issue is we are in the Lake Region belt, which is quite prevalent. Malaria prevalence is here, and the HIV prevalence. What have you done as a government to eradicate the two menaces we have, malaria and HIV?
I don't think you can eradicate malaria that easily.
Of course, or even to reduce.
Reduction, yes. That's why I'm telling you the environment is important. Stagnant water is an invitation to have mosquitoes who will finally bite you and give you malaria. So eliminate stagnant waters in the villages. Make sure that you don't have too many surfaces with water, shallow, dirty and so on, that can breed mosquitoes, okay? And then advise people to sleep under bed nets, okay? Bed nets will help very much, especially young people, to avoid getting malaria. And thirdly, there's a vaccination for malaria, but it's not very prevalent. I don't know why. So if malaria, unfortunately, visits you, then you have to have drugs to treat it. And I think the incidence of malaria has gone down considerably in this region. I don't think it is as prevalent as... There was a peak, I think, some time ago where malaria was very, very prevalent in the region. But there are certain seasons, like rainy seasons and so on, when you get more incidences of malaria. But what we are saying in Kisumu County, prevent it. Fight the war for preventing malaria more than fighting the war for curing it. Because if we prevent it, you not need to spend too much money curing it.
Governor, matters agriculture. We, Nyanza as a region is a county that, can sustain itself agriculturally, and a majority of people depend on whatever the little they have from their shamba to sustain themselves. But let's talk about the large scale. What's, the black gold or the white gold, the rice in Ahero. You talked about rice. Whenever it is seasonal, a majority of those people do not get time to plant. Somebody would argue that perhaps the county government, in conjunction with other development partners, can also come up with a dam that is also done somewhere in Mwea to help them irrigate.
The good news is the Chorus Hoin multipurpose dam, which has been in the work since 1951, by the way. It was even planned by a colonial government. The Chorus Hoin multipurpose dam is finally being done.
It's fun,
and the work is going on. Everything's going on. And the one good thing is Chorus Hoin multipurpose dam, you will not believe it, but it will have effect up to Riat Hill here in Kisumu. It has about 10 holding tanks, as it were, along the way, from Kuru Soin itself, from the Soin Valley, and up to here. And it's going to, it has to control the flows of the river Nyando, so the river Nyando doesn't misbehave, flood the place unnecessarily when it rains. It is going to contain that water and make sure that the water is used for irrigation and as well as for drinking water. So the Kuru Soin's multipurpose dam is going to be a game changer in the Nyando Valley.
What is the timeline?
It is going on now. The work is going on. So I believe that within a year or two, work will be complete.
The issue of, at the end of the day, when agriculture, we have, transport. And you're lucky enough that you have got an international airport here. How have you made use of it? How is it now contributing to the growth of Kisumu County?
Something. When I became governor, there were not about 2 planes. There were 3. There was Kenya Airways Jumbo Jet, and the frequency was not that high. And then came Silverstone. Silverstone, of course, disappeared. It started to emerge as 748 or something like that.
Right.
And then Safari Link came, and now 748 came, and then Renegade came. So I have seen during my time as governor the increase of air transport here go up about 5-fold. So the passengers, I understand, has gone up exponentially and will continue to grow. When we were holding Afri-Cities convention here in May last year, we pushed very much with the Kenya Airports Authority to make this airport truly international by having an extra arrival space and extra departure space, and that was done.
Yes.
And now the arrival space, we are still waiting for the conveyor belt for luggage to be completed. Otherwise, when the conveyor belt is completed, we expect that we can get planes coming from Addis Ababa stopping here and taking off here. Mind you, Kisumu Airport is the most cost-effective airport to land in and take off in because of the altitude.
Because of the altitude,
yeah. It is comparatively much better than Eldoret, and even Embakasi in that regard. In fact, in the old days, because of the lake, the hydrofloat, the planes that used to land on water used to land here on their way to Johannesburg. In fact, when the royal family, I think the President Queen Elizabeth and Princess Margaret came here to Kisumu, they used those planes to get here. So Kisumu is known internationally as an international airport since colonial times. We should build on this fame and make sure that it truly becomes international in terms of air traffic, commerce and industry in the region. I do believe that with the revival of the port and now maritime transport between us and our neighboring countries going on progressively, that the airport too will be also increase its activities progressively.
Absolutely. What are you doing in terms of extending the SGR from where it is right now to Kisumu?
I'm the wrong person to ask what I'm doing, but what I wish to be done is that the SGR reaches Kisumu, and that was the original intention. Why it didn't reach Kisumu, I don't want to go into, because the national government should answer that question. But I think the intention still is that the SGR will come to Kisumu, it will continue to Busia, it will connect with the Uganda SGR into Rwanda, Burundi, and the DRC.
Governor, when you talk about matters transport, finally, the port already has, the oil being transported to the neighboring country, Uganda. Initially, it never used to happen. What is the progress to this far?
It did happen until 1978.
And then it also...
When the community collapsed. Maybe you are too young to know that. But 78, the SGR collapsed when I was teaching at the University of Nairobi.
Right.
It was a traumatic experience because I knew the Minister for East African Community, the late Robert Huko, was a good friend of mine. And I remember we were having a drink at Quality Hotel in Kisumu, in Nairobi, when he told us the tribulation of the East African community as it was collapsing. But that's now history. Now, look, the thing is that it is in the interest of Kenya for the SGR to connect with Uganda. It's really the interest of Kenya. Because, you see, Uganda has a huge market here in Kenya in terms of importing things from Kenya. So I think it is for us to make sure that we are aggressive in being leading partners in the East African community. It is in our interest, I must say. So that the growth of the Kenyan economy is organically connected to the growth of the East African economies, up to DRC and South Sudan and all that. And Kenya, happily, has been the epicenter of modernization in this part of the world and economic growth. We must build on that comparative advantage by being aggressive on building infrastructure in East Africa. So I take it, like the Americans, we hold this truth to be self-evident, that Kenya should spur the growth in East Africa.
Right.
We hold it as self-evident, and it's nothing that we can argue about. If anything is a truth we should build on.
Okay. I have a question here. What are you doing on the access roads? Some of the access roads in Kisumu rural areas are not in good shape.
Well, That's a phenomenon the whole Kenya over, but we're doing something about it. I mean, I wish he comes and takes him around on some of the access roads we have built, but we still are a long way to go to complete the job. I was MP for Kisumu Rural, which is now semi, and we did a lot, but we didn't have money for those roads. Now the county government has the money to do rural roads. The demand is enormous. What we have done now is to establish a wing in our roads department called the machine-based road building system. In other words, we buy the machines like in the old colonial days of having the public works department. Now we have our own public works department, where we don't need to hire a contractor. We have our people who go there, and when there's a necessity to build the road, we build it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now that's going on. Or we partner. At the moment, we are partnered with the National Youth Service to build a tarmac road from Nambakapio to Ndere Island, about 17 kilometers. You know, tarmac roads are very expensive, so we can't do many of them. But at least by being imaginative and innovative, we want to do that progressively. So we will finish that within the next couple of months, start another one somewhere else, so that we progressively come from Maram roads to tarmac roads. We do Maram roads for access, but when we want to make them more permanent, then we go tarmac by the partnership with certain entities who have the capacity to do so. We bring the money and the equipment, and they do it.
All right. Yeah. And finally, Governor, that Kisumu County is rising as an investment destination of choice. What's the magic? And number two, do you have enough land for investors?
Well, we do. Well, land is a problem because, you know, the municipalities and the county council really misuse land and misbehaved. A lot of lands were grabbed. But we have working together with the Ministry of Lands, the Department of Land, National Department of Lands, the National Land Commission, and the Anti-Corruption Commission. We have a committee that we have established that looks into the land that was grabbed, and where we can get it back, we get it back and put it to the disposal of investors. For example, now we are having partnership with the Great Lakes University to establish a pharmaceutical farm at the Great Lakes University by a company from the US called MedEditas.
Right.
They are going to have a pharmaceutical farm at the university in an area that is going to be a special economic zone, and they are going to produce pharmaceutical products with the aim that in future we should have a pharmacology faculty at the Great Lakes University. So we want to combine production with learning in that regard. So my editors is working with that. In fact, we just have been having meetings this week to establish a pharmaceutical farm with the Great Lakes University. And then we acquired land there. Okay. We have to buy it ourselves. But also we are now working with the Special Economic Zone Authority to declare that area a Special Economic Zone for purposes of producing pharmaceutical products. Yes.
And finally, Governor, this is now close to my heart as well.
Yeah.
I'm an artist, and my sister Lupita is also an artist, and privileged enough that at some point we shared a platform at the Leons. Asante, what are you doing as, you know, through Lupita? Are you using Lupita to, you know, market Kisumu?
Well, I don't want to do that, quite honestly, but she can volunteer to do that. And she did volunteer to do that when we had Africities here. I mean, she couldn't come, but she sent a message, and she used her social media platform to advertise Africities. That really helped to attract participants to come, and we got a record. Partly, I mean, she contributed partly. We got a record of 11,000 visitors, participants. The biggest Africities convention held ever since it was established. I think the Union Cities and Local Government of Africa headquarters in Rabat has said so. And in that regard, we are going to have an executive committee of UCLGA here, Africa, in Kisumu in May, because the people who came loved Kisumu. They said the food was fantastic. So I must thank Sarova Hotels, which provided the foods, because that Kisumu food is sung to me everywhere I go now. And people say, we want to come to Kisumu, particular food. And then those people who ate the fish in Dunga. Yes. The Dunga fish is becoming an international brand, apparently.
We have to go there.
Yes.
Before we go, finally, this one. As a journalist, we never have finally. Yeah. There is something happened, and I will be allowed to quote you, in terms of politics. And this happened in matters, members of this also captured on the front page of the Star newspaper. Yeah. There you have it. Ruto raids ODM as Raila plots a fight back. And if I can quote you as one of what you said yesterday, and let me just put you there. Quote quickly, Director, I'm not surprised that an amalgam of self-seeking MPs went to State House without the blessing of a progressive party, the Orange Democratic Party. End of quote.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you're in Parliament, you are taken to Parliament by a party. And if you ever going to do something as dramatic as that, you must inform your party leader. At least you must discuss it, party leadership. You are not an autonomous person. I mean, when we were campaigning six-piece. Some of these people went to Parliament because of six-piece, not because anybody knows them. I know some of them. If they were to come back by themselves, they wouldn't go. You see what I mean? So you must respect the party as a democratic institution. I was the founder member of ODM number 6, by the way. And I know what pain we went through to establish ODM and to make it a vehicle for fighting for democracy and civil liberties in this country. And that means something. That's not something you take for granted. It's something that people have died for. So you don't just flippantly go there and disregard party leadership. No, that doesn't happen in democratic societies. No, they didn't. You saw what Philip Etali said. And the party leadership consoles wherever it is. And we do. What I do as governor, when it comes to touching what is I would have to call my party leader and explain to him, look, we are intending to do this, and we agreed, say, yes, do this, do this, do this, because, see, politics is a struggle. It's not a dinner party. Yeah.
Okay. Pressure on my ears here for us. They say that it's short and sweet. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. That is Governor Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o of Kisumu County. We are coming to you live from here at a yacht club here in Kisumu. We've been talking matters, politics, and of course development. I wish we had enough time. You know, when you have Professor, you'll have a whole day to talk matters politics. That's where we ended. Thank you so much for being a part of this show. But now we're taking back to Broadcasting House in Nairobi for our normal programming. Good morning.
The third round of the DFB Pokal, a mini Revere derby in the DFB Cup.
Yusufa Mukoko! Lozier's in there and scores!
This is an old-school raw pot battle. 5-time winners against 2-time finalists.
Fantastic save from Gregor Kobel.
The raw pot battle, only one can go through.
All right, thank you so much for sticking with us. We proceed with this morning conversation. That was a very live interview from Kisumu. Interesting one indeed, with our very own Victor Olo talking to Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, who is the governor of Kisumu County, discussion on matters concerning development within that particular county. And now we shift gears into women at the forefront on this fine Wednesday morning. Now, my name is Ram Aguko. It's a pleasure being with you. Thank you so much for choosing KBC Channel 1. As we talk about matters concerning women at the forefront, ending gender-based violence. How far are we in this fight against gender-based violence? To help us in this conversation, I am with Lynette Anyango. She is a program assistant and educator from Hidden Tears, Kenya. Karibu sana, Lynette.
Asante.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Feeling okay?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming today. First things first, what is Hidden Tears Kenya all about?
Hidden Tears Kenya is a youth-led organization. We are about empowerment and innovation.
All right.
So we deal with gender, we deal with education, and we also deal with innovation in technology.
So you mix technology in your campaigns or discussions?
Yes.
Right?
We do.
What's your take in regards to the status of gender-based violence in the country? As we speak, we still have a discussion of 1 out of every 3 women who currently, according to statistics, could have experienced a form of gender violation. Or your thoughts in regards to how far we are at as a country?
I can say we are making steps, but generally more work could be done because GBV is a hidden vice. So you say 1 out of 3, probably I say it could be more than that.
Could be more than that.
Could be even 2
1
out of 3
women, it could be more than that.
Could even be 2 out of 3. Because most of the cases are never reported. So yes, we are making good steps, but the situation is not so good. We still need to do more. Every waking moment, today, if I'm to log into social media, I'll find a case of GBV. So I'd say it's bad.
Are there those things, what are some of those things that are promoting gender-based violence in the country? Those promoters, the advocates of, the vices that are there within the country that actually promote, and some of them we may not even know it, but they're actually promoting gender-based violence. Some of those things that we need to take a keen eye on.
Well, for starters, these are some of the things that have been with us. It's just that they keep on changing the faces. When you talk about culture, the culture is still with us, but it sort of changes the face on how now it affects. For example, there was this lady who was in Korea. She escaped FGM and she went back, and the brothers beat her up and forcefully did the act on her. Yeah. So culture still plays a huge role. It's just that it's a bit hidden. It's tied within the, let's say, socialization, if I can sum it up. How we socialize people into the society. Because in some parts of the country, we are still socializing our girls to know that it's okay to undergo the cut. Within the various cultures, how we relate, as youths, as people in various institutions, we encourage patriarchy and abuse of power. Okay? So this is in the form of what you nowadays dub as toxic masculinity, where men preach to other men to view women in a particular light, and women encourage other women to treat men in a particular way. So that patriarchal mechanism of socializing men against women or people towards or against a particular gender is a huge concern, I'd say, as it stands now.
And those are the things that actually promote.
Yes, it promotes, because if you look, of course you can say there are things such as poverty, drug abuse, inadequate information out there, but at the end of the day, the socialization drives all this. Yes.
And if you look at all these statistics, all these factors that promote it, is it possible for us to end gender-based violence? And how can we do that?
It is very much possible for us to end GBV, and we can do that by taking up a personal initiative and doing collaborative work. Because when you look at the systems in Kenya right now, there are systems to deal with GBV, but they are fragmented. So people are not communicating. The CHV is communicating with the hospital, but communication somewhere is lost between the hospital, the police, the judiciary, and there's just a mix of everything.
And all these are systems.
All these are systems that are there.
Hospitals,
yeah.
Just to name but a few of these systems.
Yeah.
Hospitals and?
The police, the judiciary, and of course for us, people in the private sector. And we all need to be talking to each other because these systems, they are in place. But what is lacking essentially is talking to each other and strengthening our processes. Yeah, so we can start by doing that. We can strengthen the already existing processes that are put in place to end GBV. And secondly, we can do collaborative efforts. So we talk to each other. Yeah, as an individual, there's something you can do on GBV. Just concluding this session by saying, hey, let's end GBV. It goes to something.
You've done something.
Yeah. As a teacher out there, it's not like you're totally powerless. Just going to class and telling those your 100 students, hey, GBV is bad. Or, being a man is not all about beating a woman. It goes a long way. Yes.
And I'm looking at the value of every entity in the country, every individual in the country.
Precisely.
And we're saying, even to that person that is selling tomatoes.
Precisely.
They have a voice in this fight against the gender-based violence. But now someone may say, that is work for the corporates. It's meant to be discussed at conferences. What do you think about the knowledge that is there on the ground? At the ground level. They say, qua ground is different.
It is.
Yeah? How can we change the perception of gender-based violence on the ground?
First, I think as members of the society who know more, we need to start by being role models. You preach what you teach.
I love that.
Secondly, we need to integrate more participation in the process. I mean, truly integrate, like work with the people who are there. One thing I realized is that when you go as an organization, the answers you will be given is different when you walk in as a person. So we need to see how can we relate to these youths and these people who are perpetrating this so that they can be fully open to us and we see how to help them, right?
Yeah.
And we also need to tap into the power of social media and the power of volunteers.
Right.
Right now we have, of course, there are volunteers in all institutions. We have community health volunteers, but it's very powerful because they are the people who reach to that hustler, as you call them, huyo mama mboga. That CHV will reach to that person. So we need to educate the CHVs first so that no information is lost in between. And we also need to do more, basically more empowerment to the ground. Target the institutions, do this through social media, do this through role modeling, incorporate this in our education systems. You will be surprised. You will think that people are so informed in this generation. But then they're superficially informed. You start having a conversation and they know something about GBV, yes, but now when you start digging deeper, somebody can't even tell you, like, now what is gender identity? What is gender expression? Why is it you're directing this hate towards this particular person? That deep conversation, it's not there.
And let's even dig deeper, because in your experience, you've walked around, you've had social engagements.
Yes.
There are those instances that you've noticed and you've picked out that have stood out for you as an individual. I want us to give me just a glimpse of some of those experiences you've had while on the ground. And you are like, this is a story I can never forget. And this is something that touched you and made you say, you know what? We must talk about GBV. We must talk about ending it immediately in the country. I know you've managed to interact with people on the ground and you've managed to pick out some of those experiences as you are on the ground.
Actually, you will be surprised. The one that stood out to me, I didn't even encounter it in the field. It was my neighbor. My neighbor.
Your neighbor?
They were fighting in the middle of the night. The mama has a child, and the mzee is also there. So they are fighting. They're fighting, the windows are breaking, there's blood everywhere, the caretaker is coming, And you know, this was now close to me. I could not say that I had or I reported to the scene after it had happened. It was happening live. I'm hearing. It's only that I couldn't hear the language, but I was witnessing what was happening. And so it you know, seeing with your eyes, there's a way it changes you. And the baby is there. The baby is crying. Huh? And the glass is shattered, and now you're just wondering what is happening here. The glass is shattering everywhere, and it's going to the baby is crying, the mother is crying, you know. And now people are beginning to wake up, and they're trying to come in between. And the man is saying, it's at night. And the man is saying, well, I'm going to kill you today. I'm going to kill you today. And the neighbors are coming, and, you know, it was just so bad. So that struck me close to home. You know, there's a difference between going and being given the story and witnessing it in front of your very own eyes. And the lady had to be hospitalized, unfortunately, but she got well. So, yeah, that stood out for me because it was personal. There are definitely many other stories, gruesome stories. Sometimes you go, you find the man is threatening to set the child on fire, you know, beaten, broken limbs, and this is a child. That means the GBV crossed over from the partner to the child. And now it just breaks your heart.
And interestingly, some of these, not some, wrong terminology, most of them end up unreported.
Yeah.
Is this because of lack of information from the ground? Or is this stigma? What is the reason why we do not see the statistics being as real as possible?
Well, I will say it's stigma. Remember when I said that most of these things, they go back to how people are socialized. So you find it's not like they don't know that they should be reporting or they don't want to report. It's the stigma and discrimination that they face in the process of reporting. And this stigma and discrimination, it comes from everywhere. Because some people will say, I confided in my parents and they told me, ndoa ni kuvumilia. I confided in my pastor and they said, it's not allowed.
Pray about it.
Pray about it. It is not allowed. You know, sometimes, especially for the men, they say, how will I go to the police station to be laughed at by my fellow men?
Because my wife beat me up.
Because my wife beat me up. You know? So it's the stigma and discrimination that is stopping these people from speaking out. And especially because we attach shame to GBV. You know, where we should be attaching empathy and understanding, we attach shame. So somebody automatically feels ashamed, even reporting and saying, hey, you know, my wife beat me yesterday night. They can't. They are already ashamed of that. Yeah.
And we need to let people know there's nothing shameful about it.
We do.
Gender-based violence is violence. And one thing that many people do not actually realize is gender-based violence is actually a human rights concern. And when we have such a thing happening, is a violation of your rights.
Yes, it is.
Is that true?
It's true. It's a direct violation of your human right.
And if you look at the stigmatization, what can we do to end the stigma around it?
The stigma, ooh, this is a tough one because people grow up, you know, the way you socialize somebody.
Yes.
You know, this saying, it might be cliche, but it's real because I've seen it. You can take the man out of the village, but you cannot take the village out of the man.
Sounds like a joke, but
it's true.
It's a very serious thing.
Because most of the time we tend to think that if somebody's a media personality, he's a doctor, she's a lawyer, now this person all of a sudden has dropped the biasness that he or she had grown up with. But you can walk into some of these institutions and you find these very people promoting these things. Why? Because of the extent of how they were socialized. It has been ingrained in them. So it's a bit difficult, yeah? So I'd say, let's start by educating our children as early as possible, so that they grow up knowing about these concepts of what gender is, what is GBV, and how does it affect the society.
Could you be referring also to the education system? Can that also play a role?
Yes, actually. According to the KDS, the report that was it was put forth in 2022, you find that people who are not in relationships, The second cause, the perpetrators, aside from the partners, now for the people who are not in relationships, were the teachers.
Wait.
So you can imagine what that says. It's in the report. Teachers.
They are the violators.
Yes. Physical. GBV. Teachers. KDHS 2022. It's there. So the education system needs to do something about that. And then we also have to reorient, of course, there should be continuous education in these institutions, right? So we need to be continuously educating people in the education sector, in the legal sector, you know, in the military, about GBV and the role they play in either stopping or perpetrating, you know, these acts. Yes, it needs to be there. We should not just assume that somebody's an adult now, they know. We should always be continuously educating these people. And of course, on the other side, all we can do is encourage the law to do what it's supposed to do. Yes.
Do you have projects as Hidden Tears Kenya that you're engaged in that help especially in this fight against GBV?
Yes, we have United Against GBV. So basically, this is a program that works in 3 ways. We mentor select few, what we call leaders or key people. So we can identify leaders in institutions, leaders in community, and then we train them on GBV and release them to go and spread the message. Secondly, we also have direct education.
Okay.
Okay, we educate the people directly, and we form social groups, and we educate them within the social groups about GBV. And lastly, we also provide counseling. For anybody who comes to our doors or we meet them and they encounter GBV or they are a victim in one way or another of GBV, we also offer counseling services as Hidden Tears Kenya.
And do people come out? Do people turn out to attend such kind of functions, especially on the sensitization areas?
I can say it's 50-50. Sometimes it depends on the mobilization. It depends on the characteristics of the people you are dealing with. Sometimes they do turn out, sometimes they don't.
Because I'm looking at the interests in the society. And people are actually interested in having such a conversation that some actually feel very uncomfortable having. You know, that's why I'm asking that.
That's why I say it depends. Because you can go into a particular area and people come. But then you go to another area and people shy away from it. That is the complexity of the work we do. You cannot bundle everybody in the same basket. You'll go to Kawangware, for example, and people will come. And then you go to, let's say, Korogosh, and people don't come. So it depends.
And that's just
the particular group.
That's just an example, not that people of Kawangware.
Yeah, that is just an example, of course. Yeah.
That's just as an example.
Yeah.
That everybody isn't the same. People are not the same. And the reception will be different.
Precisely.
With the areas that you are visiting.
Yes.
I would like to give you time to have a final word as we bring this conversation to a close. And I want you to talk to Kenyans watching you today. What's your parting shot, even as we talk about ending gender-based violence in the country? Your final word and call to actions to Kenyans watching you today.
Well, I can say, let's protect our generation from GBV. And let's take this up as an individual initiative. Do not wait for the government. Do not wait for institutions. In wherever space you are, there is power that you have. Okay? Even if you're just a hustler, you have your phone. You can do something on that. If you're a teacher, you can do something on that. If you're a lawyer, you can do something on that. As a teacher, as a landlord, you have power to do something about GBV. And it is the right time to start to protect this generation from GBV.
Asante sana. That is Lynette Anyango, the program's assistant and educator from Hidden Tears Kenya. Lynette, thank you so much for coming. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm sure that lives are changing, and one life touched means something. Cindy?
Definitely.
Yeah. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you for having me here. I only wish I had more time, even 5 hours.
We'll invite you again and tutakuja.
Yeah, you know, I feel like I have so much to say, but time, so I'm still grateful.
Thank you so much.
Let's continue protecting the generation from GBV.
Asante sana. And it is on that note that we bring this conversation to a close. My name is Ram Maguko. It has been a pleasure being part of this discussion right here on Good Morning Kenya. What are you doing to end gender-based violence? You have a role to play. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're taking a short break. Doreen Arange will be back with more, and that is in regards to women and leadership. Keep it KBC.
Kiswahili kitukuzwe.
Mwanzo wa kitu ndo mwisho wake, lakini sisi hatuna mwanzo, hatuna mwisho.
Alinishow nimpe chance ya kunimiss, kumbe alikuwa anataka ni go missing out of his life. Alinishow apendi ile na dress ati ni tight na crop, kumbe alikuwa amepata crush na tight na crop na alikuwa anataka kumuona daily in me.
Dada zetu mwakosea kuzivaa hadharani, ndizo hizo uchochea usherati mitaani. Mavazi rekebisheni, usherati umezidi.
Tunapoangalia kwa upande wa matumizi ya tarakilishi, wanafunzi wengi wameweza kutumia tarakilishi kuingia utandawazi, ambayo wanapata tanzo ya kutazama filamu ambayo hazifai.
Tunakataa kwa hizi injections zitadunga ndani kwa ujuzi tupate ugonjwa wa tumbo kufura for a period of season and no good reason. Mafisi wako kila side, hadi tumeshindwa kudecide wapi kwa kuhide. Kila mtu ni chui in heights za kondoo. Tume hide in silence for long, but leo manzejo tunawa silence for good.